Hello, my friend, and welcome. I'm Daryl Urbanski, and today I have something special for you. What you're about to hear today isn't part of what we usually do. Today, I'd like to spend some personal time with you and for us to get to know each other better. So, to start, I'll be sharing some of my life stories with you, plus introducing you to some of the grandfathers of my business acumen. In fact, the next few weeks, I'll be introducing you to the grandfathers of my education, plus, you're going to get select never released recordings of people interviewing me where I give some of my best business and life advice ever. We all learn from various people we know for various amounts of time. Some people we share just a single impactful moment together, others, a full weekend. And some of us have people in our lives who have always been there, always guiding us, and always sharing our paths. Well, I would like to share some of these people who have guided me with you. Your life really can change based on the things you learn and the people you meet. So please enjoy this special series of classic and never released recordings in this 10-part interview series. Enjoy.
It's John McIntyre here, the autorespondent guy. I'm here with Daryl Urbanski. He is the best business coach in Canada, I believe. Bestbusinesscoach.ca is his website. He helps people build, how he automates and scales a business to achieve multiple seven-figure sales and grows their presence, grows their audience, all that sort of stuff. He has a product called Seven-Figure Funnel Formula, which we're actually going to dive into today and talk about some of the funnels that he's been building, the results they're getting, and the process that he follows to get these results. So you can walk away today with a bit of an action plan on how to build your sales funnel. So we'll get into that in just a minute. Daryl, how are you going today?
Hey, I'm doing good, John. Doing good. Glad to be here. How are you doing?
Good to have you on the show, man. And it's funny because we were both at the Titans of Direct Response conference a couple of weeks back, but we didn't even meet at the conference. It was funny when I got your email, I think from, it was your assistant to book in the podcast, and then I saw you floating around on Facebook in the Titans group. I was like, this is like a small world.
Yeah, it is. It is a small world, especially I guess up at this echelon. So people are really living and breathing it. So that event was so awesome. Caliber of people that were there. That was probably my favorite thing. Was just the quality of the people in the room.
Well, you were just telling me about like Ken McCarthy and like they were going to get some of the other guys, some of the other gurus in the industry, or the probably the more well-known gurus in the internet industry to the conference, and then they ended up getting Ken McCarthy, who, what you were saying is he's really the guru behind the gurus, the guy that all the gurus that everyone knows go to, but no one knows who he is. Well, most people don't know who he is.
Well, yeah, because he's kind of been out of the game. I mean, he was the first one. He's the godfather of internet marketing. He put on the first internet marketing seminar where he had Mark, whatever his name was, that created the first internet browser. This is back in the day when everyone was doing direct mail. Ken was one of the first people to take that online. And almost all the big names, they've all come through his camp in some way, shape, or form. But yeah, I don't know. Everyone just wants to keep credit for their success for themselves. That's something that I know. It's something I've actually really noticed. It's surprising because for me, it just makes sense that you pay homage to your mentors. But it's something that I haven't really seen a lot of in some respects. And but yeah, I mean, it's Isaac Newton. If I've seen further than others, it's because I stood on the shoulders of giants, and that's why you and I were both at that Titans event, right? Because we recognize
that's exactly right. Well, cool, man. Well, before we get into this seven-figure funnel formula, can you give the listener just sort of a bit of a background on who you are? Because I just met you, really, and but who you are, what you do, and then we'll dive into the content.
Sure. Well, yeah. So Daryl, Canadian boy. I guess to start off, I mean, I've been trying to succeed in business since I was 17, just fumbling and figuring it out. Canada's not as entrepreneurial as the States. We're kind of walk the middle path between socialism and capitalism. Didn't have a lot of peers or mentors that really could help me along the way, but I've had a lot of different types of success and failures and tried every different model. And then when I I had one failure back in 2006, I think, with just a vending machine business, and it was the only reason was I just couldn't afford the equipment that I needed to really do it the way it needed to be done. And I realized that I was spending all this money investing in the product when I hadn't generated any sales, and that was like when the light bulb went off, and I realized that marketing, one of my mentors said this: marketing can sell a non-existent product. Good marketing can sell a non-existent product, but bad marketing can't sell free gold. gold. And so I just made a commitment to myself that I would really master this marketing, and it's changed. Everything's changed, and it's been exponential growth ever since. So most recently, part of how I got to doing the 7-figure funnel formula was working as a senior marketing director for John Assaraf, where I helped build my third automated funnel. The previous ones all did under 10 grand a month, but they were still automated, hands-free, just sales coming in. And then with John, I figured out some of the missing pieces that I had. And last year we did a launch, and that was about 600,000. And then we did around another 80,000, 90,000 for the end of the year. We had some tech issues. And then by the end of the first quarter this year, we did about $1.4 million with that one campaign. It only really required 2 staff, 3 staff if you consider the customer service rep. And then now, since I've left the company, they've done well over 3.5, and I'm working with a handful of other clients, and we're just duplicating the process. And so there's more people that want to work with me than I can handle. And so that's why I have this course to just help people and get a product. So now, I've got my own income source that's not from me delivering services, and then at the same time I actually have plans on the back end of that to take people who have been through the course and do a certification program, and then that's just kind of where the vision is for that. So yeah.
Nice, man. You got a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah, well, it's just about the journey, just having I mean, you're talking about that. One of your big takeaways was just people that have a mission and motivation and reason to get up. And I set a goal that I want to help create 200 new multimillionaire business owners who solve world problems with entrepreneurship. And that's a real goal. That's a 3 to 5 year goal that I have. So that means I need to get my course into the hands of at least 1,000 people, because and not just into their hands, but I need to make sure that they go through it, that they really learn it, that they master it. And it just, if we're talking about real percentages, if people that implement, probably need to get something more like 5 to 10,000 people through the course, just to get the percentage of people that will, go through it and implement it and get the full results, the full benefits. You hope everyone will that goes through your course, right? But some people, they don't, they're not. The money might not be the goal. It might be lifestyle, it might be freedom. So they might not want to use it to become a millionaire. They might just want to use it to, I don't know, be like some people I know that just, want to make some money and go live their life in Thailand.
That's the funny thing about Thailand, man, is on the one hand, you've got guys who are out here hustling hard, and they're really trying, like they're here to build a business, to lower the costs and build a really big business, and then they can go and, crush the world, dominate. And then you've got other guys out here who want to make $2,000 a month or even $1,000 a month and go live on the beach for the next 5 years.
Exactly. Yeah.
So it's an interesting split.
And they're both right. Like, they're really both right. Because, at the end of the day, all the pieces go back in the box, right?
Yeah.
You can't take it with you. Yeah, that's it. So it doesn't matter. You do whatever you want here, but at the end of the day, it's just about doing stuff that fulfills you. And that's why I want to help entrepreneurs who want to change the world or solve world problems, because marketing can be used for good and for evil. And I just don't have it in my heart. Like, even if I lacked an ethical bone in my body, it just makes sense. Like, that's my tagline: your success is my success. Because even if I lacked an ethical bone in my body, it just makes financial sense that if you help more people and they actually get benefits and results, that it will pay you forward. They'll refer people to you. That they'll come back by again. Like, it just So.
That's one of the funny things about it is, like, you could be a completely unethical person, but like in business, you'd be like a one-hit wonder. You'd work once,
yep.
And as soon as everyone knows what you like, they're gone. So you could take ethics just out of it completely, and you still have to play by the rules. Like, you still have to play as though you are an ethical person. This sounds a little bit sinister now, but you still have to, like you said, it's just good business sense to do it, regardless of whether you agree or believe or you're the most ethical or moral person in the world. It just makes good business sense.
Yeah, and it's really kind of disheartening when you see good marketers that sell empty boxes or do, I don't know, they just try to suck money out of people and places and then kind of disappear. Or it's just, I don't know, it's just it's different type of person, I guess.
Well, cool, man. Well, let's talk about this 7-figure funnel formula. What's getting you all these results? Let's start with like a big picture overview of sort of what is it and how does it work and what's the sort of thinking behind it. And then we can dive into some of the concepts or the nitty gritty stuff.
Sure. So yeah, and I'm full transparency here. I'll give away as much content as I can in the time we have. So one of the most revolutionary things that happened in marketing was the creation of a sales letter. So the way this all kind of developed. Back in the day, what a business was was a sales rep essentially with a horse and buggy, just going from town to town trying to sell his stuff. And he would just end up knocking on doors and talking to the mother and father of the house and making his pitch and moving to the next door. And one day, this really ambitious sales rep, he's trying to figure out, how do I get to more doors? My wife, she wants to have more kids. I want to take her on vacations. I got to find a way to get to more doors in a day. And he realizes every time he goes to a door, he kind of goes through the same spiel if he's never seen them before. And he thinks, maybe I can just take what I usually say and write it down, and I can pay a boy to run ahead of me and deliver the letter. And then when I show up, I can just kind of summarize and answer the questions. And he starts doing that, but he realizes that some of the boys are coming back with money already. And then he gets wise. And, after talking to people at doors, he starts refining the letter, adds an order form. And now all he's doing is pulling into town and taking the sales letter and having boys distribute it. And then they come back with their money and he gives them the product. And that's his little delivery system. And then once the mail system really got up and running, he didn't even need that. He could just set up a remote office in Delaware or some remote island and just do it through the mail. And so that's like the history of direct response marketing anyways. And that's how a lot of it evolved. And so it's the same sort of concept. The sales letter was a canned and cloned sales presentation. And so it wouldn't convert as well as a face-to-face presentation. If I get someone sitting in front of me one-on-one, face-to-face, I'm much more likely to sell them, right? To convert them, and not necessarily, but consultatively, right? Consultative selling, to figure out what's preventing them from buying. So the sales letter is never going to meet the conversion rate on a one-per-one basis, but the difference is that you can scale that. You can mail hundreds of thousands of letters where you can't meet that many people in a day. So the real core of the 7-figure funnel formula is creating not even just like a sales letter, because a sales letter is just a one-step, but multi-step marketing campaigns. Multi-step marketing campaigns that can and clone that process.
Okay, and how does it? I'm always curious because there's so much. Like I've got a community that I teach people, about email marketing and about sales funnels and that sort of thing, on my end. And what I've noticed is that you've sort of got, you probably see this as well. There's a lot of marketers out there, and everyone's kind of got their own. Everyone talks as though they have their own method. Right. I guess to doing marketing or to doing a sales funnel or to doing that. But often, I don't know, what I've seen out there is you start to think that a lot of it's very similar. At the end of the day, it's about getting in front of someone and giving them some sort of pitch and then following up and making sure you've got your your product dialed in and that. So what makes your 7-figure funnel formula, what makes it unique? What do you think?
Sure. So yeah, and you're right, and it always has been the same. So the difference with our technologies or with this course is it shows case studies and real live examples of people that we're building it for, and it's using new technology because there's software tools out there that allow you to do automation in a totally different way, and especially something that's been really important for me is treating people differently. Like I'm writing a book called Tribal Marketing, How to Double Your Business in 12 Months or Less. And the concept of it behind it is that you have different tribes in your business. And a lot of people, when they do email marketing, they have like their free offer. They make 4 or 5, free, their whatever you want to call them, lead magnet, opt-in pages, whatever you want to call it, free report pages. And that's just to build their list, right? And then everybody opts in and they all get dropped into the same list, the same bucket list, and they get marketed to. And then, there's those, soap opera sequences or whatever, but it's still very robotic in the sense of once you're in, on day 21, you're going to get 3 emails that pitch this product, and then you're going to get 4 emails of content, and then you're going to get 3 emails that pitch this product. And it's, you know what I mean? And it's a low conversion rate because it's not, 1, it's not behavior based, and 2, it's not relevant to the person that's on the other end. The other part that's different is a lot of people, they don't focus with the end in mind. I mean, part of the big difference is that there's making a funnel to make, like we said, some guys, their goal is to make $1,000 a month or $2,000 a month and kick it on the beach. And so they don't do any planning. And then there's other people that they want to grow this big company, but they're not, let's just say this. Let's just say you want to beat the 4-minute mile, right? Well, if you plan your route that you're going to run to try and beat the 4-minute mile through a swamp, you've got your work cut out for you. And a lot of people do that with their businesses and with their marketing. And so that's kind of the stuff that we try to alleviate. Issues with trying to scale, issues with even just, great, you've got something that people want, you got a hot market, you got people that want to buy it, but there's only 10 people in the market, right? Like you have to have one hell of a back end to make your $1 million, right? So just things like that. And it's just talking about just businesses that are scalable, ways to manage that, resources, vendors, tools, technologies, tips, and then also the community that is a part of it, which I think is really important, because even part of what we saw at the Titans was the value of the quality of people and being with a group of like-minded individuals. So there's just different people. There's affiliate marketers. There's all sorts of different things. And so some people will teach you a tactic on how to do affiliate marketing, how to do X, Y, Z. But I mean, the goal is still the same. Like for example, I was telling you, I have a lot of people coming to me for work, and I'm almost too busy at this point. But one of my biggest qualifying questions is I just start trying to look at how much potential money is there in this project? And that's even something Warren Buffett had said was one of his keys to success, was the ability to say no. Because especially when he started getting a name, everybody's coming to him. And again, a lot of people that, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, but they're only ever going to make $30,000 with it. Or do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, one thing I've noticed the tricky thing, at the times of direct response and conferences like that is I think that there's so much emphasis placed on marketing tactics and strategies, like how to build a sales funnel, and how to write a good sales letter, and how to persuade people to do stuff. But no one talks about how to choose a market that has a huge potential for scale, and that if you want to make $100 million, you got to make sure you're in the right place, like in the right market. Because if you're in the wrong market, you're never going to make $100 million. It's just never going to happen.
Yeah.
So that applies at any level. Like to make $1 million, that's a very different question to how to make $100 million, which is different again from how to make $1 billion or $100 billion.
Yeah.
And so it's sort of like I actually find in my own life that it's actually quite helpful to start to think on that scale, that before you optimize anything, before you write sales letters and build a sales funnel, the biggest, most important decision you have is, like, if your goal is to make $10 million, well, you need to make sure that you're in a market that has the potential to produce $10 million worth of business for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, that's something I picked up from Michael Gerber, was the rule of 10,000, where basically applied that to everything. Because Michael Gerber, the E-Myth, it's all about systemizing your business. And when you systemize, it's about not being the focal point yourself and being able to create something that you can duplicate and replicate. And so with the rule of 10,000, suddenly, if, like, take you, say you wanted to just take this podcast and make it the best, biggest, baddest, best podcast ever, and you were subscribing to the E-Myth philosophy, well, you would approach and be like, all right, well, how would I handle if I had 10,000 interviews I had to book? How would I schedule those? How would I plan that out? How would I contact those people? How would I conduct those interviews? How would I do the editing for that? How, like all this sort of stuff, all of a sudden now you're developing systems and processes where it's like, man, we're going to have this huge flood of water or whatever, of traffic, of people, of work coming through, and you got to have that, like, do you know what I mean? You have to have that built out beforehand. It has to make sense. You can't be having someone show up and just throw them in and have them figure it out, because that's something they call that, like, call it the Oprah effect. That's where I first, like, there's two things that happened that really made me start thinking about scale and how do you scale and models that are scalable versus not scalable. I was watching TV and there was some news thing about the Oprah effect, and I'm like, what the heck is that? And they actually, whenever they like feature a product or something like that, or Oprah likes something and she just wants to mention it, they actually have to be careful, because they've killed businesses, because the business will just get slammed. It's like for weeks on end, the phone will ring nonstop. And that sounds like a champagne problem. And in a lot of ways it is. But what happens is when the businesses don't have the infrastructure, when they don't have the ability to scale, you get all these customers, and then all of a sudden, say you've got 150 customers showing up at your door, and you're only really able to take care of 5 of them. What do those 145 do? They badmouth your business. They complain. They turn around. They say you can't, right? Like it crushes the business. And so they're not ready. They're not prepared. So there's actually a team that goes in and helps or checks out and tests the business, so to speak, before they mention that, because the Oprah effect. And even with myself, to mention what you said, if somebody really wants to make money, it can be really, really hard. And it can be good and bad if you're in a tight market or a small market. But there's just realities that you have to face. Like if I want to run, it's not going to be easy to run on sand or to run through a swamp as it is to run on nice flat ground. And so that's all. And it's, You're right. There's not necessarily a ton of new stuff under the sun, but there's not a lot of people that that are just mentoring and showing the way.
Right. One thing I'm curious about is something like the nitty gritty stuff of how this funnel of yours like plays out. So walk me through like a typical funnel.
Sure. Well, of course, in every funnel you've got so every funnel you've got traffic and you've got conversion. You've got a conversion event, whether it's your sales letter or whether it's a webinar or it's whatever it is, right? That's your sales event. Whether you're doing a free event and then you get people there and you're selling them in person. So you've got your traffic and your conversion. And that is a basic fundamental for if I get 100 people, my conversion is 10%. I got 10 sales. That's great. So first thing you do is when you know you've got a hot buyers list and you've got a product and a service or something that you know is built and able to scale, then you need to build your promotion and you need to just do the math. So what I mean by that is you can't, if it costs you $15 to get a customer, but you're only selling a $10 product, you're going to dig yourself into the hole really, really fast. So now if you, instead of having one conversion event, you have two conversion events, even though only a smaller percentage will take the second purchase, now you're going to make $16 per, right? Like now you're selling a $16 item and it's costing you $15 to get them. We have $1 profit. Now you need to be able to roll that out. Even though you're only making $1, even if you're only making $2, even if you're only making $3, as long as you've got your numbers locked in and you know it really, really well, you can start to roll that out. And so then you roll it out and say you had 100 visitors. Now you get a couple hundred visitors. Then you check your numbers. Then you get a couple thousand visitors and you check your numbers. And you need to be making sure that you're optimizing and constantly scaling and that you're already poised and ready to set up more of your back end and your upsells. And you have to build up the business in the beginning to where the math, it just makes sense. Like you want your math to be so lock solid that when you go through it, it's not an if, it's just a when, right? So, I mean, the best situation is like with John, and actually with a client right now, they're spending $6.87 to get a lead, but they're making $12.40 something off of them. So they're doubling their money. And when you have a situation like that, where you're putting $1 in and you're getting $2 back, how much money do you put in the machine? Every freaking penny you can, right? So, and then you'll have issues with technology, things breaking along the way, and people often get frustrated and turn back. But essentially, if I were to break this down to a really, really boiled down concept, it's having a hot market, having a product that you can scale, and then having a funnel that converts and running traffic through it at a profit and knowing where or how to scale it out. So if you're only making $1 for every person that goes through your funnel, but you know for sure that you're without a doubt that that's the $1 I'm making, then you need to get 100,000 people through that funnel and you will make $100,000. But then what happens? This is it. What starts to happen is when people get around 30,000 or 50,000, suddenly they're not built to scale and their overhead gets jumped up, or the technology starts to fail, or then they're having regulation issues because of what they're making too much money too fast. Their merchant accounts are shutting down, all sorts of things like that. So at a bare bone thing, it's traffic and conversion. And if one conversion event won't get you there, then you need 2 or 3 conversion events, 4 conversion events. But if you plan that out in advance, if you do the research in advance, then it's just a really safe way to do it and then to roll out and scale.
Okay. And then so let's say you set up a funnel. Is every funnel, does it follow the same format in the sense that you got cold traffic going to an opt-in page and then goes to, say, like an offer on the thank you page, and then we say 2 upsells, and then you have 27 emails sent out, with a certain like if-then logic sequence. Do you have a certain formula that you follow like that, or does it vary? And do you just sort of vary it up depending on who you're working with?
Well, and that also depends on the market. So, for example, I have a client that's in aromatherapy, and she, I'm not going to say their name, but she's gone through a couple of recent internet marketers funnels because she's an online business, and she's trying to improve herself. And she just said she just felt that it was really just left a bad taste in her mouth having those upsells and downsells that like being kind of pushed upon her. And she knows her market very, very, very well. She's been doing it for like 15, 20 years. So for her, we're doing like you can do that. That's fine, but It just depends on the market. That's the small answer. So there isn't a whole lot under the sun. It's like you said, it's about putting offers in front of prospects, right? And every list you're either doing, you can only do, every communication message you send to your list can only do one of two things. It's either to improve and build their loyalty, or it's to make them more profitable, right? It's it. You're either building loyalty or you're building their profitability, right? And that can even be you're building the relationship or you're solving their problems. That's another way to look at it. But so that's as far like, so to answer
I like that. That makes it real simple where you're either building the relationship or you're selling them something.
Yeah, that's it. And then when you're selling them something, but that's why I changed it, because selling isn't supposed to be hurting the relationship at all. Like, that's where you almost need to get permission to sell, because that's the other problem people get into when they try and scale this thing up. Sure, I got this funnel, I'm making $1, but then they start to scale it, and they're getting so much negative feedback that it crushes them. They'll start having regulatory issues. Like, that's, you know, now you have reputation management issues, and that cause problems, or people saying that you're a scammer or whatever, or your stuff doesn't work. So it's not about, and you're fine. Like, I'm not in any way trying to, but it's that the loyalty and solving the problems. That's why I said that for a specific reason, because again, that's what a real business is supposed to do, is solve someone's problem. And if someone's not having that problem, then you don't solve them. And that's where you've got the if-then, like that becomes really important, your if-then decision diamonds, or whatever you want to call them. Because if someone seems interested, then you need to ask their permission to try to sell them first. Because it's like when you start building a house, when you start building a building, if there's a small lean to it of like a degree or a half degree, that doesn't really matter if you're only going 1 story, 2 stories. But if you want to build that to be 60 stories, 70 stories, every little lean at the base, at the foundation, makes a massive difference when you start getting above a certain level. And so, so
that's like that golf swing example, when you kind of take, like 1 degree difference on the golf swing. Doesn't make much, like doesn't look like anything when you're hitting the ball, but 200, 300 yards down that pitch, the ball's off in the, it's in the lake or it's in the trees.
Exactly. So, I mean, a funnel is a funnel, and you can have 7 upsells and downsells on the front end, and you can have 5 different webinars or 5 whatever sales letters and whatever you want on the back end, and that's fine. But it has to make logical sense. It has to fit. It has to be like. So say, for example, I sell pools. All right, so I just sold you a saltwater pool because you're some natural loving person and you don't want chemicals in your pool. Excellent. So now that you've got the pool, or even before we start building the pool, we should check, hey, do you have a fence? Because it's according to the bylaws, you have to have a fence. If you don't have one, you can be fined. Oh, you have a fence, that's perfect. Okay, well, awesome. What about the patio furniture? Right? Like, do you want to upgrade your patio? I mean, we're putting this pool in. We're already going to be digging it up. Did you want to improve, like, the landscaping? Because we've got these trees that are $10. Like, someone's already in. That's why they say, like, you want to get them when they're already buying, because their wallet's out. It's not even just because their wallet's out. It's because they're buying to try and solve a problem. And oftentimes when people, like, when I'm going out and I go to the store and I'm, like, going to buy some plants for my garden, I'm like, you know what? I don't know if this one plant is going to fill that empty space as much as I need to. I'm going to get this, just in case. Right? But when you're on the sales side of it, you're like, oh, I should try and sell him 7 different things. That guy bought 12 things, but it didn't make logical sense. So that's an important component to it as well. Bare bone fundamentals, you've got a funnel, you're paying for, sure, if you're running your cold traffic, any kind of funnel, you're spending, $3 and you're getting 6, scale it. If your goal is to make 1,000 or 3,000, right, you just scale it, get 1,000 people through it. But do you have the longevity in there? Do you have the ability to scale? Do you have... is it thought out from beginning to end? I mean, that was one of Stephen Covey's, the 7 habits of highly effective people, begin with the end in mind. I'm sorry, I don't know if did I answer your question, or did I go on like a total tangent?
No, this is good. It's interesting. It's ended up being quite like a conceptual or high level chat, because I actually thought that there would be like more, I suppose, like nitty-gritty. It's funny too. Like the great thing about podcasting is I can get on because some of these questions are relevant to the funnel that I'm sort of got running right now and how to improve it. That's why it's that's why I'm finding this so interesting. But I've just always been curious. Like is there? That's why I asked the whole like, is there a set formula that you use with everyone, or does it vary? And what I've gathered from this and what I've noticed with other guys like Perry Marshall and all this is it's just like fundamentals. Like you get some traffic and you add some conversion, and the conversions you get your sales page, an email sequence, a landing page, maybe some upsells. And really, you're just trying. I mean, I think it's Perry Marshall. Maybe it's Jack Bourne. Actually, we did a podcast earlier this week together, and he's got this thing called the traffic and conversion triangle, which is where to build a business, you could bring traffic in, and then you convert that traffic and make it buy stuff. So you got traffic, then conversion, and then step 3 is economics, which is really make money on that traffic, make a profit, and then the profit then goes back into buying more traffic, which then goes into conversion, and it's this sort of circle of life that's continually improving. But when you have that mindset, it's sort of like it doesn't really matter exactly what flow or what funnel or what formula you follow, just as long as you're bringing in traffic, you're optimizing the conversion, and you're optimizing your lifetime value of the customer. You just do that over and over again, and maybe you lose money at first, but eventually you're making $2 for every $1 you spend.
Yeah, and I mean, really, to be really honest, I don't know if losing a money is good a strategy. I know a lot of people do that, and if you've got the money to afford that, I just think that's a dangerous place to live in, and you just need to have really sound and solid financial backing. I very much come from the bootstrap philosophy, which now, like, there's the new book that's selling the same shit from before, but now it's called the Lean Startup. But it's all the same thing. It's about having a concept, collecting the money in advance. I mean, gyms used to do this all the time. When they would start building out a new gym or fitness center, they would get a trailer and they'd set up in front of the building with all these signs up saying how it's coming soon, and they would sell memberships at a discount. And what's really funny is if they weren't selling any memberships, guess what? Construction stopped. And then they just went and did something else, because instead of investing all this money and building it and being like, well, now that it's built, we're going to make all these sales. No, there's still enough people that will buy early on. So I would just caution you about that. But I mean, it's just like cooking. If you were to take cooking, when you're starting out, you need recipes to follow, and you need to learn how to use a crock pot, how to not burn everything. You have to learn a lot of these tools and techniques, and that's where a lot of people are selling. Like you're saying, people are selling a lot of courses on tactical stuff. They're trying to teach you how to be in the kitchen without blowing yourself up. And then you start with some recipes, and that's where you get people that are selling really core, for like this step, that step, right? But then once you've been cooking long enough and you've got enough experience, well versed, you can make your own recipes and make it happen. And it's, Dan Kennedy said this a long time ago, like the principles never change, the strategies sometimes change, and the tactics frequently change. And if you're playing at the tactical level, I mean, Facebook advertising changes every morning. When you log into your Dash, you're like, what's new today? Where'd they move that button? So when you're at the tactical level, it's a grind to keep up, and you're also at more risk to be automated, to be made redundant, to be replaced by technology or services or some sort of innovation. So. Yeah, I mean, we just said that before. I mean, at the Titans event, we really learned that it's about solid implementation of the fundamentals and having access to people who can help you, who've already been where you want to go, because they can give you the answers you need when you need them. And that comes from a theory I have about learning. Sorry if I'm rambling on and on, but that comes from...
Go on, man. This is good.
But that comes from a theory I have about learning. So, I never went to university. I was accepted to the Queen's School of Commerce, but I never went. I went to Japan instead. And I feel part of what's helped me be so effective in my learning is that, one, there was a drive of, hey, if I didn't go to school, I better keep up with them. So it actually made me very, very studious. But the other flip side is that everything I'm learning, I'm applying it as I'm going. So when you're lost and you're trying to get somewhere and you're like, hey, how do I get to X? And someone goes, oh, you just go straight down the road, you take the third right, and it's the first building on your left. Do you need to rehearse that 7 times? Do you need to get cue cards out? Do you need to try to bang it into your head? No, it's like an empty puzzle piece that just clicks in, and then you just go and you do it. And, maybe you need to you need to write it down, just because if you get distracted, you might lose it in your short-term memory. But generally speaking, you don't really need to go through the rigor that you have to do for school. And a lot of people always say, oh, now that I passed that test, I can forget everything I just spent all this time studying. And to me, that's just a massive waste of time. And I hate stuff like that. So I'm very much about learning as I'm going, but then making sure I'm connected to people who have been where I want to be. That way, if I'm too focused on the next step or the next 3 steps and I don't see the cliff I'm about to go off of, I've got people that will go, yo, you might want to go in that direction instead.
Yeah. Well, cool. Well, this has been fantastic, man. We're right on time, though. So before we go, can you give the where should someone go if they want to learn more about the 7-figure funnel formula?
Sure. Yeah, we've got a webinar on it, and they can go to bestbusinesscoach.ca. There'll always be a link to it there. And of course, you can find me on Facebook or any of the social media sites. Look me up, reach me. I'm just another person, so just like you. But yeah, bestbusinesscoach.ca and LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, all that stuff.
Cool. All of those links in the show notes at themcmethod.com. Daryl, thanks for coming on the show, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me.